Welcome back to One More Mana. My name is Derik, and today we are getting into an Innistrad deck tech. Midnight Hunt is amazing, and I know it's been a minute here. Life's been a little hectic, but I am so excited to be back with Innistrad because some of these deck lists I've just been staring at, so ready to get these things scripted and recorded. Love the legends. If I didn't mention it enough in the brew video, the legends in this set are just beautiful. They're amazing. And there's one legend that just stuck out to me. I had a few deck lists, but this one I just can't stop thinking about. Is this going to be a competitive deck? Definitely not. Is it going to win many games? Well, probably no. But it is going to make you feel accomplished and bring you closer to just one of my best friends, and that's Ormendaddy. And today we're taking a look at Jerren Corrupted Bishop. Now, if you want any of the beautiful Innistrad cards in this deck, or you want to do like I did, I've already fully foiled out 2 of my Innistrad based commander decks with the basics, or just foiled out the basics, because those things are so damn pretty. I just found myself staring at them, just looking into the foily abyss of these lands and thinking about how happy I am not to be an Innistrad, because shit looks creepy. But if you want any of these, head on over to TCG Player. TCG Player is absolutely amazing. Anything you're looking for, you can find there. Any of these foil basics, and maybe you want non-foil basics. Maybe you want to buy things other than the basics. Whatever it is, it's going to be on TCG Player. A lot of these cool black and white frames, they look super pretty in foil. And if you use the affiliate link down in the description below, it'll help support the channel in the process. We always do appreciate all the help. But let's jump into Jerren Corrupted Bishop. Now, Jerren is 2 and a black for a 2/3 human cleric. I actually had to check. He looks a little inhuman at times based on the art. One of the most important things to point out about Jerren, dude's got mutton chops. So right away, you know I'm going to be friends with this guy. I love the mutton chops on this dude, at least in the black and white art. Looks awesome. I am so jealous. If you can tell, I have like 3 fuzzes sticking out where mutton chops would be. I believe in myself. Never look as good as Jerren's, but maybe one day I can do it. So right away, I like him. He's got some interesting abilities. Now, the first whole part of text on this card is, I think if you wanted to build this deck to be good, probably the direction you'd go, because it says whenever Jerren ETBs or whenever a non-token human dies, you lose a life and you create a human token. You can also give humans lifelink. Now, I basically just ignore the humans. I wasn't really interested in that. It's a cool little side effect. I don't even know if there's another human in the deck. Y'all know that I love Ormendaddy. Ormendaddy's my boy. We are besties. Any chance I get to flip my Westvale Abbey into Ormendaddy, it doesn't matter if it's a good decision, bad decision, what part of the game, it is going down. I enjoy my quality time with Ormendaddy. I got to make those sacrifices to bring my boy out. Now, in this deck, the whole purpose is going to be to flip Jerren into Ormendaddy by any means necessary. We are making those sacrifices, paying that life, and we're trying to see Ormendaddy each and every game. That's really the goal. That is a win for us if we're able to see Ormendaddy, and we're going to have some things in here to maybe try to push through wins in addition. So the whole part of this card that matters is that at the end step, if you have exactly 13 life, you pay 4 black to go ahead and transform this and flip the card into Ormendaddy. And now with Ormendaddy, besides just being freaking beautiful, it is a 6/6 with flying, trample, lifelink, and sack a creature, draw a card. Honestly, it seems like we're jumping through a lot of hoops because look, okay, getting to 13 life, paying 6 mana on an end step, doing all of this, feel like they probably could have made this version of Ormendaddy a little bit more broken, at least bigger than a 6/6, like make it like at least like a 9/9, like something big, maybe indestructible, some sort of evasion or protection, I should say. But look, I'm not going to question Daddy Ormendaddy. I'm going to let him do his thing. If he's only feeling like a 6/6 today, I'm going to embrace him for that. And we're still going to go ahead and bring him out. So how are we going to do this? Why are we trying to get ourselves to 13 life? How can we turn this into an advantage? And how are we going to build this deck? So I am going to have other Ormendaddy in the deck as well, kind of as like our plan B is, okay, we can't get new Ormendaddy. Let's go ahead and get OG Ormendaddy out. And one of the things that they both have in common is they really want you to have tokens. Old Ormendaddy, you got to sack 5 creatures and tap Westvale Abbey to flip it. And this one, you want to be able to, once you finally jump through all these hoops, you want to be able to sack your creatures to draw cards and actually get an advantage of spending all this time and effort into getting this card out. So we're going to play a lot of token producers, a ton of cards that let us pay an arbitrary amount of life so we can get to 13 life. Basically, as soon as we're able to hit that 6 mana mark, we want to be able to be at 13 life so we can transform this as fast as possible. And then use different effects to either gain life or do some tricky stuff to use the fact that we have such a low life total to our advantage and go ahead and try to use Ormendaddy to finish out the game. We'll start with the creatures as always, and we have a ton of token producers here. Mono Black has some awesome token producers, stuff like Abhorrent Overlord, Grave Titan, Newscraft Mob, Ghoul Caller, Gisa, so many different options to kind of just poop out tokens, and these are really, really cool. They function early game if we're kind of stalling out and it's taking a while to get our game plan going, which may happen a few times, to protect ourselves. Lots of chump blockers, lots of things to just kind of survive, and it'll become very, very apparent very fast. You're not playing some sort of human aristocrat strategy when all of your tokens are zombies with your commander. They're going to know you're going for the Ormendal deal. You might be able to stall and survive a little bit just based off of that. Then we have some other effects in there too. A lot of the other effects we see throughout the deck are spread in this creature slot. So we have stuff like Magus of the Mirror that is going to, spoiler alert, allow us to switch life totals with opponents. And that's actually going to be a big sub-theme of this deck and that we'll get way more into in the Sorceries. And that if we're going to be at 13 life, why not do that to other people? What if we can get ourselves to 13 life super, super fast? Go ahead, get our Ormendal out, and then use something like a Magus of the Mirror to give that awful life total to an opponent, take their life total, get back to a nice beefy life total, and have Ormendal chilling with us in the process. So that's kind of one of the mini goals, and that kind of, you know, represents that in the creature slot. We have Wall of Blood that represents one of our arbitrary life paying effects. The creatures do have a really, really cool spread of really what the deck's trying to do, but most of our token producers are here, and it's going to be necessary. It's not a creature heavy deck, and we have so many really expensive sorceries and effects we're trying to do. Survival in early game is going to be crucial. With the enchantments, we have stuff like Bitter Blossom and Dreadhorde Invasion. Obviously, Bitter Blossom, I think, is still really expensive, so it's not as necessary, but it's cool if you do have one because flying blockers are also clutch. So to be able to have these tokens out for protection and to be able to use them for your Ormendals is great. Kind of the same with Dreadhorde Invasion, just getting chump blockers out is wonderful. Another thing I really love is Font of Agonies because we're going to be paying so much life. Necropotence, I'd never know how to pronounce it, which is also in this category. Cards like that are going to let us pay so much life that Font of Agonies gives us some sort of benefit. We do, like I said, we want protection, so paying life and getting the benefit of being able to just knock off creatures because of it is a really, really cool effect. And then Wound Reflection, we're gonna see again at some point. This is just an incredibly powerful card in here because of the life swapping effects we're gonna be playing. It's kind of just a KO. Now it's really mana intensive because that's 6 mana, and then a lot of the life swapping effects are incredibly mana intensive. So this is the type of thing that probably don't want to play it out till late game, but it's one of the few cards you can get out in the deck to kind of win out of nowhere and have an explosive victory. And with the artifacts, we have really the two biggest categories here. We have tons and tons of ramp, and including stuff like Cage Stun, taking advantage of the fact that we're playing monocolored. We need to ramp a lot. I mean, 6 mana just to flip our commander. A lot of those swapping effects for life and even just the effects we want out on board are so mana intensive. We have to ramp a lot, and Mono Black thankfully is great at doing that. So tons of artifact based ramp, Cage Sun, all those types of things, and really you can go as heavy as you want into that because the deck can be so mana intensive. But thankfully Mono Black does a good job. I also threw a ton of equipment in here, some of my favorite swords, Blackblade, Reforged, all that type of stuff. Because look, I want to win with Ormendal, and I want to make Ormendal happy. I'm just here to make Ormendal happy. I just want to see the smile on that demonic, terrifying face, and just that look in the eyes. So I want to give Daddy Ormendal some swords. I want to give him the Blackblade Reforged. I want to make him feel special. So that's what we're going to try to do, is suit him up with all types of equipment. Early game, these are just going to be kind of dead draws, but just getting these out, maybe you can put them on some of your tokens for value if you're playing some of the swords. Blackblade Reforged turns every deck into a Voltron deck, so even Jerren can become a threat at some point swinging with it. But ideally, we can kind of get these out and be able to equip them to whichever version of Ormendal we're using and really just kind of speed things up and get scarier, get some cool value late game. Mostly they're here for flavor. I just want my demon to have big swords, and that seems like it'd be a really good time. And then more of what we need, kind of the veggies again, the life paying, the life swapping. We have things like Soul Conduit and Phyrexian Processor. Phyrexian Processor paying an arbitrary amount of life also lets us get out some tokens, but getting us to 13 is fastable, and stuff like Soul Conduit that's incredibly mana intensive, but to then go ahead and give that 13 life to someone else and go ahead and take advantage of the fact that we are getting down to that low life total. It's very, very finicky and very scary because people can, I feel like worst case is having some sort of effect where someone just like bolts you to the face when you get to 13 and then you're just sad. But even then, some of these life swapping effects can take advantage of the fact that we're at a low life total, even if somehow someone just throws off our Ormendal plan. And honestly, I'm looking at you out there, whoever you are, that is running around with the plan to stifle my Ormendal trigger. Don't do that. I'm going to work so hard for this. And because I'm saying this, I guarantee Kyle, Sedken, they're all putting Stifle into all their decks now, even the non-blue ones. Don't do it to me. I'm gonna work hard for this. Let me have it. With the instance, we have some instant speed removal. I didn't go as heavy as I probably should in instant speed removal, just because again, I wanted as many of the effects that we're going for as possible to get us that Ormendaddy out, but we have stuff, whether it's like a Go for the Throat or a Terror, just removing creatures so we can kind of stay alive. I do absolutely love, if you can afford it, Hatred, or if you just happen to have one. Hatred is phenomenal in here. I know it's so good in so many decks, but being able to pay an arbitrary amount of life, make something big, you can do some really cool stuff with it, and it just fits well into our game plan. So if you just happen to have one laying around for any reason, it's a fun and efficient way to use it in this deck. Now with the sorceries, we have two really big categories. I would say overall the sorceries are probably the most important category because we get so many of the big effects we need. Tons of tutors. I would put as many tutors as possible into this deck, and that's not something I normally say. Normally I'm not very tutor heavy, but we have so relatively few effects that are going to let us pay arbitrary life and get us to 13, or more importantly, late game be able to swap life totals if we want to. Having tutors on hand is really important in this deck. We want to be able to tutor to get our pieces out, because our pieces don't win us the game. Our pieces are literally get Ormendaddy and survive. So this is the type of deck where I think tutors are not only warranted, but it's going to be really hard to play this deck with any sort of success without some tutors in it, because it's such an underpowered game plan, essentially. So whatever tutors you have, they don't even have to be efficient. Again, we're trying to ramp like crazy, so you can play any sort of whatever black tutors you have available, with whether Diabolic tutor or whatever they are. I know there's a whole bunch of just so many options. Stuff them all in here. I think ideally you would want around like probably 5 to 7 minimum, and you can increase that if you find yourself not being able to get Ormendaddy out consistently. Not to mention they also double to be able to go get Westvale Abbey, to go ahead and go kind of your plan B and get other Ormendaddy, which is a really cool idea and a cool option if you hit that you have, just in case everything else is kind of going south. But then in addition to these tutors, we want to have a decent number of board wipes, because again, survival, we're gonna not really have a ton going on at some points early game, so having board wipes just to stay alive. I don't want to go overboard, because games with 70 board wipes in one game are not fun, so at least to me. So I didn't go super hard, but obviously something like a Toxic Deluge is great, because you can go ahead and get your life total where you want it and wipe the board in the process, and really set yourself up for that turn to get Ormendaddy out, which is super cool. Obviously stuff like Repay in Kind, Profane Transfusion, more of these life swapping effects or life evening effects that will work to take advantage of these really poor decisions we're making and getting our life total so low. I will say, this is actually, I'm gonna not put this in the game winning step, I will mention it now in Exsanguinate. I didn't put Exsanguinate in here with the intention of having it be the game-winning card. I don't want this to be the card I tutor for late game. I don't want to win games with this necessarily. But the reason I like it is because if we need life, you can just pump maybe 3-4 mana into this thing to just get a little bit of life back. Drain people, get some life back. I do think Exsanguinate is a great survival card in this deck. If it turns into winning with it too often, I may cut it, but I do think this is a cool deck to run it in, just to make sure, oh crap, I'm at 10 life, everyone's at 35. Let me not die right away and kind of use this to stay in the game. And looking at the lands, you can go super basic heavy. I actually think the more basic heavy you go makes Cabal Stronghold more realistic, which is actually pretty cool. I'm actually very much enjoying that Cabal Stronghold can be a very strong card in this deck. If you were able to get a Cabal Coffers when they just reprinted it, Cabal Coffers obviously would be great in here. Maybe a Nykthos if you have one on hand. Really just a bunch of swamps, and then those rampy black land cards are great. And then obviously we have to run Westvale Abbey. We need to appease Ormendaddy from all directions. I think the dream, oh my gosh, if you're able to get both OG Ormendaddy and New Daddy Ormendaddy out at the same time, like send me a screenshot, or I guess a screenshot, a picture, do something. Let me know that this has happened in the universe somewhere, because that will be my goal. I don't know if I'll ever achieve it, but I will dream about it. So let me know if you do it, because that would be amazing. That's gonna do it for the category. Now let's get into the most exciting part of every deck tech, and in this case, the most Ormendaddy-iest, and that is the game-winning step. How are we about to win the game with this deck? And the primary way, and the way I want to so bad, is to let Ormendaddy do all the dirty work. I want to get new Ormendaddy or OG Ormendaddy or some combination, put some swords on them and start punching people. Get them out as fast as possible, which is probably gonna be like turn 8 or 9. And just get stuff going, get stuff crazy, start swinging, use their lifelink to get some life back and just have some fun. They don't really have much protection, they're probably gonna die soon, but you can really do some work, and even sometimes late game, just by staying alive, they're great finishers to go ahead and try to win the game. Now the second best way to win the game in this deck is going to be with these life swapping effects, just because you can get people real low. You can get into situations with your life paying that you're getting to insanely low single digit life totals, using all the ramp we have, switching life totals with somebody taking their healthy life total and just putting them in a situation where they're close to death. You might have someone who's really terrifying, a real big threat, put them at 4 or 5 life, and all of a sudden someone else can take care of them. And I really love using that as a win con. Obviously you can use that in addition to something like a Wound Reflection for like a 15 mana kill someone combo. There's some really cool stuff you can do with it, and I think that's going to be a big way, honestly, to take people out, more so than even swinging with the Ormendaddies. Now the third way to win the game, it is time for our weekly trip to Phyrexia, and it's some Phyrexian goodness in here. We're going to use plenty of Infect to try to win the game in this deck. We got stuff like Tainted Strike to give either Ormendaddy or one of the other people's creatures Infect to spread some Infect. I even put a Skittles just randomly in here, which I love because we have other equipment and stuff. If all else fails, just drawing a Skittles and putting someone on like a 2-turn clock, and sometimes the game has to end, and if you have no other means to do so, I found Skittles to be such a fun, random, out of nowhere win con when it's just like, I just need to top deck something. This might do some work. So we got some Infect going in there. You could even go graft an Exoskeleton as well if you wanted to add some more Infect. As much as you want, this deck is not going to overpower anyone. So adding Infect to make it more viable, I think is perfectly fair and might be necessary depending on how often you're trying to win with the deck. That is going to do it for this week's deck tech. I really hope y'all enjoyed it. This deck looks really fun. I am very excited. I'm going to try to put this together in paper and get some tests in to see how often I can pull off the Ormendaddy summoning. It seems like it's going to be a ton of fun. If you're into jankier, interesting brews, I think you can have a lot of fun with this. And it's like, I always talk about having mini games within the game. I think this is a great example of just working so hard to pull something off that even if you don't win, hardly ever, the games where you just get Normand all out, you're going to feel accomplished. It's going to be a good time. And I think it can lead to some cool stories, especially with all the cool life swappy things. Lead to some cool stories that really, I think, is what, for me, EDH is most about. As always, a huge shout out to all the patrons. We love and appreciate y'all so much. Just thank you for believing in what we do. And everybody, let me know in the comments below what you think about this deck. Are you taking this deck or this commander in a different direction? Do you find a more effective, efficient build with Jerren? Or do you have any other decks dedicated to Ormendal? I think it's the second Ormendal based deck I've done. So do you also have an affinity for Ormendal and other cool things you may have done with him as well? Let me know. But believe me, it's been a minute, but there are plenty of Innistrad deck techs to come, don't worry. But until then, I will see y'all next time.